Hello and welcome to Common Royalty. This is our show that talks about some of the unsung heroes here in northern Michigan as we draw attention to some of their very special causes. And to my right, Jessica Mason-Freilich, Ms. Michigan State. She's obviously the royalty of the show. And
to my left, Bill Freilich, obviously the commoner. Today we are talking with another ordinary person doing extraordinary things. This is Jenny Totten with Free Cuts for Kids. Do you want to tell us what that means, Jenny?
Free Cuts for Kids is an organization we started like 3 years ago where it started out that we were just being able to jump out in the communities and go to different locations to be able to give free haircuts right before school started. And so we, people on my Facebook, I put it out there, the idea, and it kind of went viral. And so I wanted to just be able to cut hair for kids when school started. And all of a sudden my friends were like, well, hey, they need school supplies. So then all of a sudden people were donating school supplies, and it just kept going completely viral all over the place. And so our first year we did 478 haircuts before school started. And I met a lot of amazing, amazing kids. And so this is our third year. Second year we did like, I think it was like 480 or something like that. So in the last 3 years, we're over almost 1,200 haircuts in 3 years. We did 32 events this year, all over Michigan. We did, actually we were here in Traverse City when I met you.
Yes.
And so we've been Houghton Lake, Harrison, Cadillac, Grayling, Traverse City, Manton, I'm trying to think, Cadillac. I already said Cadillac.
All over.
All over,
really,
yes.
in Cadillac, though.
Yes, really. Well, actually, in Manton, too, Lake City, all of those surrounding areas. And so our goal was to be able to just be able to help the families in a time of need. You know, by the time you get 5 kids in a family, and them to be able to afford haircuts or extra clothes or any of those kinds of things. So we thought, well, if we can help out with the haircuts, be able to boost their self-esteem, get them ready for school and everything else, then we've done what we're called to do. We've met a lot of amazing kids, heard a lot of amazing stories. The parents thank us and say, you know, you've allowed us to be able to buy extra clothes or, you know, buy extra shoes for the kids and different stuff like that. And then we supply school supplies. And so what we do with those is, if the parents tell us or the kids tell us that they've already bought their school supplies, then what we do is we ask them to take them back to school, and if they find somebody in need. So not only are we building the self-esteem of the kids, but we're also teaching them to care about other people that surround them.
So every child gets a set of school supplies.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's wonderful. And how many kids who receive these do take them for somebody else?
Actually, a lot of them do, surprisingly. They really do. And if not, then what they do is they take them to the teachers, and the teachers will give them out to kids that need them. So then, after the season's over, which actually the season hasn't been ending, we just continue on, it's grown.
Never ends.
It's grown a lot. But what we do is I pick a school in the surrounding areas, and I donate all the extra school supplies to them of all the people that have donated. So every year we start fresh with the school supplies. And so since we've been 3 years, I get a lot of repeat kids, and it's amazing to be able to have the stories with them that when they come in, sit down in the chair, then I remember the things that they talked about and ask them about school. And then before school starts, I get a lot of messages from kids or parents that the kids want the parents to take pictures of them to show me what they look like the first day of school. Or how many friends they made, because the conversations that we have with them is about building their self-esteem, you know, hopefully them not being able to get bullied because now they look like everybody else because they're having the same experience. I do it because God placed it on my heart. I have experiences from my past in my childhood that I didn't have that great of a life. And so I've experienced a lot of things that kids have in hardships, and I've been bullied, and I experienced a lot of hard times. And so it's nice to be able to understand where these kids are
Yeah.
and tell them that it gets better. You can change your future.
Yeah.
How do you coordinate, I guess, with your locations? Who does all the hair cutting? I mean, there's all these logistics that are running through my mind.
I know.
32 locations or whatnot.
Absolutely. I have had some amazing stylists. Courtney, Erica, Linda, Christy. I've had a lot of amazing stylists from all over northern Michigan that actually work in other salons, and they will jump in and actually give us a hand, and so we're able to do multiple, locations.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the locations have contacted me, and so they'll say, hey, Friends Ministry in Lake City, the YMCA in Cadillac, they all contact me year after year and say, hey, would you still be willing to do this?
Yeah.
And we're like, absolutely,
Yeah.
And so we've had a lot of churches contact us to be able to do it. And they've actually formed events around it, like back-to-school carnivals and kind of like the Salvation Army here in Traverse. And so it's kind of nice that it's gotten a little bit bigger where now they just contact me.
Yeah.
It makes a full schedule, and
Yeah.
it makes it hard for me in the summertime to be able to work my salon, but I think that I would much rather I love working with the kids, and I love being able to hear their stories and everything else. I'd much rather give up working at my salon than to just work with the kids.
Well, you and I have a lot in common, which I really believe that people, birds of a feather do tend to flock together.
Absolutely.
I have taught dance for years, which I was mentioning earlier when we were talking about owning small businesses. And just like you, I realized that when you have that hour of time with kids, that if you are only providing the service that you're there to provide, you're missing out on a big opportunity. And so I started doing character development and self-esteem building, just like you do when they're sitting in your chair. And every woman knows the intimate relationship that you have with your hairdresser. There's just something about the nature of that relationship that it's so easy to talk. Maybe the fact that you're both sitting facing the same direction, but you just open up. And the idea that kids can come and see you and connect with you and share the common experiences, the fact that you've taken that opportunity to do so much more with it, that's what I find so admirable, even beyond the donating of your time, but that you are doing something more with even what you have. That's the part of it that I truly love.
It's hard to accept that. It's hard to accept that, when because of the experiences, I feel that, I'm doing what God's called me to do. And it's humbling, and it's heartbreaking, and it's hard to be able to be in that limelight. To me, it's hard to just be there because I don't feel what I'm doing is that important.
Do you remember the TV show Friends?
Yes.
Remember how Phoebe was trying to find a truly selfless gesture, and she couldn't because every time she did something selfless, it made her feel good?
Yep.
And so finally she let a bee sting her because she got nothing out of it. And then she found out the bee died, and it just ruined her world.
Yeah.
When you find joy in giving, it does feel effortless, and you get so much out of it. And I appreciate that you are humble, and you do understand that you're doing God's work. But I'm glad that you're able to be here and talk about it, because our show is not just about recognizing you. It's also about encouraging others who have something to offer, have some way to give. I'm a big proponent of giving what you got.
Yep, absolutely.
And not everybody has money or a lot of time, but if you can provide a service, if you can get some extra school supplies, but providing these little examples in our community for people to identify with. And so that's why I'd like to also talk about why large families mean something to you. Let's talk about the size of your family.
Oh, gosh. My family keeps growing. We have a house full of teenagers. I have a daughter who's 23, who's my blood daughter, and then I have a son who is 19 who came to us in a time that he needed. Through a program called Staircase, which is absolutely amazing. The people that love these kids and believe in the organization that work with them to want to see them succeed. And that was our biggest thing, was we wanted to be able to get into the foster care system, but not necessarily be in the foster care system.
Right.
It's so hard to have those. I believe in the older kids. Not that I don't love the younger kids, but because of my history and everything else and the things that I experienced in my life, it's made me who I am today. So if I can push on to the older kids that are getting ready to step out into this big, scary world, and love them and show them care, responsibility, what it takes to be able to put a house together. And so, you know, we have a 19-year-old. We just received an 18-year-old through Staircase who is, both of them are absolutely amazing young men. And it's exciting to watch them grow. Staircase is an organization that I think it's the program from 18 to 21. And what they do is they bring these kids in and they find them host homes. And it's so hard to find host homes for the kids in the local community. But what Staircase does that's different than the regular foster care system is they meet with these kids once a week. They meet with them at school, or they meet with them in the homes. They teach them shopping skills. They teach them budgeting skills, how to find jobs, how to apply for FAFSA.
All the things we wish that we were teaching in school.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so they get in, you know, and work with these kids, and then they have summer programs where they take them to Michigan Adventure, and they, you know, they have different, like Michigan State Extension Office come in and teach them cooking skills and all of these things. So you're getting double work. You're getting people who really love these kids and everything else and want to see them succeed, but they also lock in with the host homes and work with the host homes to be able to help them, because a lot of them have abuse issues. You know, they come from bad backgrounds and, you know, all of these things. Now, the cool thing about Staircase is these kids cannot be on drugs. They cannot be alcohol, you know, partiers and different stuff like that. They have to be kids that really want to succeed, but just can't do it because there's nobody with a background to help them. And so they reach out, and a lot of the counselors in the schools are the ones that search out and say, you know what, this young man or this young girl just needs a chance. And so Staircase picks them up. And
in a lot of cases, they come out of the foster care system.
Sometimes they do, yes. Some
and
of
that
the
ages out at 18.
Exactly, that ages out of 18. And a lot of times what happens is unfortunately, not all foster cares are this way, or foster care homes, but sometimes they're, you know, they cap out of the system at 18 and they don't get funding anymore. And so sometimes they just say, okay, you're 18, but their mentality's not there.
Right.
You know, they have issues from birth.
But they still have 9 months of school left.
Absolutely, absolutely, and they still need to graduate, and they still need to prepare for college, and so it makes it extremely hard. So our home, we believe in structure, and we believe in responsibilities and chores and loving our kids, even in times of fast life pace. And so we also have, like I said, we have 23, 19, 18, 17, and 2 16-year-olds. And so we have 4 kids of our own.
How many couches do you have?
I have lots of reclining couches that fold up, but they
That's our problem.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yes.
to be fair, it's
doing the
because of
math.
the dogs.
Yeah, oh, well, yes, I
it's
can
not even all the kids.
Yeah,
Because the
absolutely.
animals, they tend to take priority.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, you know, the biggest thing is no matter where we are in our life, to teach these kids that we've been there, we've experienced it, but we can show you how to overcome it. You know, life's hard, and if we can just, and it makes me emotional, if we can just love these kids where they're at and show them that they don't have to follow what their upbringing was. If we don't, if they can change their lives, and it just takes a few people to be able to show them that. And I think the biggest thing with Cuts for Kids and the work with Staircase is these kids have a future, and they're our next generation. And if we do not show them, if we don't show them love, respect, I want them to be able to take what we can give them, what you give them, and take it to their future. Because if we don't, all of that's going to be gone. And it's already starting to show that it's kind of gone. So wherever we can be able to touch other kids' lives and everything else and show them the kindness, I want them to remember that in their later years and say, you know what, I remember this woman who taught me dance, who taught me, you know, self-esteem and everything else, or myself who does haircuts and everything else. I have a talent. They all have a talent that they can use for the greater good.
Exactly.
I want to ask you how you keep yourself grounded or keep yourself from getting overextended. And I ask that because of this one over here who, you know, I mean, you talk about giving what you've got, and it just, when you said it seems so effortless, that little light bulb went off in my head. That's
Not
why
for the rest of us.
That's why you are overextended, because it's like, oh yeah, I can throw another hour in
I
there.
can
That's
do that.
fine.
I can do that.
I can do that. That's good.
That's my disease. I have the I can do that.
Yeah. And so it's always like, yeah, you know, that's in my wheelhouse, or I can easily organize another cuts for kids because I know how to do that. But it does take a lot of time and effort.
It does. It does take a lot of time and effort. God makes it work. I mean, no matter what we do in our lives and everything else, it will all work out.
It's amazing how it always fits into a 24-hour day.
It does.
Too, you know?
I know. And my husband always says all the time, and my kids, well, we have the famous words in our house when things are kind of chaotic and everything else. It is a fast-paced life, and you try to get so many things done. Perfect story of how things are meant to happen last weekend. My husband and I had worked with Abigail and wanted to do the homeless standing on the streets and everything else, because that's another one of my hearts is for the homeless, military vets and everything else. And that's another segment that's going to go in with our Cuts for Kids and our nonprofit that we're forming, is to be able to jump to the streets. So we have locations and dates that we're getting ready to jump to the streets of northern Michigan and actually Grand Rapids. And we're going to New York City to cut hair in Central Station.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
anyways, but
great.
Stories how amazing things happen. My husband had set up a time for us to be able to get away, because I have been talking forever about wanting one day to not be Jenny Totten, not be mom, not be hairstylist, Cuts for Kids, anything, and I've been begging for it for months. So he planned for us to go to the UP, and I had already talked to Abigail, didn't know, and I was going to jump out in the streets with you guys to be able to do for Jubilee House. And so I messaged her and I told her, I'm sorry, we can't do this. You know, I'll catch up with you guys next time. So we headed out Saturday morning, got on the freeway, and all of a sudden my check engine light came on, my battery light came on. And we're like, oh my gosh, what's going on, you know? So we pulled off the road and everything else, stayed on, so we canceled our trip. And I got on Facebook as we were headed back to town, and the first message was that you guys had already hit in the streets and already had homeless people come up to you and everything else. And I turned my phone to my husband and I said, this is where we're supposed to be. I had made an obligation and I did not fulfill it. And so I called Abigail right up and I said, when do you need us? And she's like, well, I need you tomorrow. Can you do it? And I said, absolutely, we'll be there. Had an amazing, humbling experience and everything else. And do you know that we brought my husband's truck up here on Sunday to do this? I got home just out of curiosity, flipped over my car and everything else, and my light still came on.
I was hoping that.
But Monday morning when I went out to take my car to go to get it repaired, there hasn't been a light on since.
There you go.
That's the divine intervention.
Yes.
Quickly for the audience, the program that we did over the weekend was raising awareness for the Homeless Awareness Day, I think she called it.
Yep.
Abby Courtney from Jubilee House.
Amazing.
She has been on the show.
Spark in the Dark.
With Spark in the Dark, and she is another dancer for Swing Shift in the Stars, representing Jubilee House. And she put together this campaign where people who had homes, who had food, people who are taken care of, have our needs taken care of, and we hit the streets with signs saying, I know where I'm sleeping tonight, but some people don't, and I'm collecting on behalf of them. our family went out, the two of us and my 11-year-old son, who was really Hobo Joe that day. I'm sorry, Joe. He was laying on the bench, had his sign up. He took it seriously. I was, of course, in Crown and Sash, so I destroyed everybody else's intake.
Yes.
But even in Crown and Sash, like you said, the humbling experience, the lack of eye contact, the just discomfort that people felt. But then also to have Abby talk about how homeless people were coming up and feeling so recognized and grateful. And that's the event that God just said, no, Jenny, this is where you're supposed to be.
Exactly, I know.
Well, and I imagine you get a lot of those same types of feelings with Cuts for Kids.
I do.
So we go back to that, and you talked about some of those kids that you see year after year. Obviously, you see moms or dads year after year now, too.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's, quite honestly, it's probably a challenge for some families to present themselves and say, hey, we need help.
It is. Oh, it's very hard for families. You know, a lot of them have said, you know, sometimes what they do is the kids now will say, I want to go back and see Jenny. I don't want to get my hair cut anyplace else. And the families will say, we can afford for the kids to get haircuts, but the kids want to come back and see you. They love Jenny, you know, or they love Courtney, or they love Erica, or they love Linda, you know.
So they
and
wait
Christy.
a year, and then their hair is really long.
Exactly. No, and actually we do enough events that throughout the year, because right now we're getting ready to get the kids set up for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we do a lot of events, craft shows and different stuff like that. They'll contact us and say, would you jump into the craft show and give the kids so they can get their pictures taken with Santa Claus or, you know, whatever. And so, you know, a lot of these kids, the parents, I have a lot of people say to me, do you look at the parents before and look at them and ask them if they can afford it, or do you look at the parents and see if they can afford it, if they're wearing brand new jeans or, you know, whatever? No. My focus, as soon as those kids walk up and they sit down in my chair, I don't look or bother with anybody else. I don't care whether they can afford it or not.
Right.
They're here. I'm doing what I'm called to do. If I can make a difference in that kid sitting in my chair and everything else, or even the parent, then we've done what we're called to do.
Well, even somewhat recently in a congressional hearing, the gentleman leading it, and I wish I had better quotations for knowing who it was, but said that thank goodness that in our country rights aren't afforded based on how you appear
How
to
you
us.
look. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people like to pass the judgment. I'm not called to judge. Neither is anybody else.
Well, if a family can, say, afford the haircut, but the child wants to get a haircut from you, and so they come to a Cuts for Kids, do they have an opportunity to donate for other families?
They do.
Tip you?
Yep,
Something?
and they absolutely do. And 9 times out of 10, what all of us stylists do is sometimes what we do, how do I want to say this? We usually pick an organization, or we pick a community supper table. Like if we're in Manton, a lot of times what I'll do is there's a Christ community table in Manton, and they meet every Wednesday, and people in the local communities or churches get together and they feed these people. And so anybody can come in, and I will do haircuts, and then we'll donate our tips or whatever donations we make back to the Christ community table for them to buy more food to be able to feed these people in need. And so I believe that we don't have to make a profit for any of this. Our biggest thing is my family, my husband believes in what we do. We have people in the local areas that love to give and be able to help what we do and what we stand for. And so people donate, and it just happens. We just had advanced optometry in Cadillac. They did a what do they call it, a relax day. And they got to wear jeans and everything else. And so in order to be able to do that, they had to donate money. And so they, Advanced Optometry just donated $53 from their relax day or whatever they call it, back to Cuts for Kids.
Excellent.
And so our hard part is we've had a lot of organizations, developers, business people from all over the communities that have wanted to donate, but their first thing that they ask me is if I'm 501(c)(3). And unfortunately, right now, I'm not. And so I'm working on that and need some help, attorney, tax accountant, whatever, to be able to help us get that status done.
It is
because
difficult.
most everything comes out of, it all comes out of our pocket, plus the people that donate, and they don't get the tax break because they do donate, but there's a lot of people that do, you know, that want to donate, and we just aren't at that point yet.
I spent many years, I wouldn't say actively trying because it just felt so overwhelming, that I'd look into it or I'd bring somebody on who would start working on it. And it was just such an overwhelmingly large project that I never got the certification myself. And eventually we were adopted under the Salvation Army umbrella. So thank goodness it was just provided for us, and it just happened. But it is daunting to try to get that status.
Well, and especially when your focus is on the kids and
what
the
you're
people in
doing.
the communities. I don't
You'd
want
rather
to
spend your time.
Yeah, I don't want to take the time to try to get this rolling. I would love for somebody to just step forward and say, hey, let me do it for you. And I've had a ton of people offer, but, you know, times everybody's got busy lives.
Right.
Well, before we run out of time, Jenny, tell us how to get a hold of you, because you're all over the north. So short of
Jenny
tracking,
of the North.
you know, following
Oh,
you
it's
around
Jenny
town.
on the block. That's what all
There
the
you
kids
go.
call me, Jenny from the block. You can contact myself, Jenny Totten. I have a Facebook page called Free Cuts for Kids, or you can just contact me, Jenny Totten, on Facebook. Also have a salon at Sweet Salon Spa in Cadillac at 1909 North Mitchell Street, and my salon is called Grace Designs, and you can come in there anytime. If you're wanting to help, like I said, you can contact us, message us on Facebook, send a text message, however that you want to.
We'll have some contact info on our page as well. In addition to just hairstylists who may get involved, the school supply donation. There was a woman with Power Books, I believe it was.
Yep,
We're going to have
absolutely,
her on the
Travers,
show.
yep.
So people, if you have something that works in conjunction with this, anything back to school, anything for kids,
Yep.
you're
a great idea.
yeah, you're a great person to contact, because you are doing events. It's not just this one service you provide. It is around events. So many people can get involved in the things that you do.
Absolutely. Well, and Network Connections is a group that's all over Michigan too.
Okay.
And we did an event in Grayling, and they had all of the local organizations there telling the people that, you know, were homeless or whatever, that there was different things that they could be able to do to help.
Okay.
And so they're getting ready to do one in Cadillac, and I don't know if they do one here in Travers, but all of the different governmental offices and everything else. And so they asked us to be there, and so I'll be at the one in Cadillac, and I've been at the one in Grayling, and it's just wanting to be able to help the people that need it most.
That's great. Last minute of the show, you have a house full of kids, you said, and everybody supports this. When do they start doing some of the haircuts?
Oh boy. Now my daughter, who's 23, I would totally trust her with all my life. She's been with me since she was 3 years old, and she can cut hair and formulate color like there's no tomorrow, because she does mine a lot. But my other ones, oh, I don't think so, not yet.
Not ready
There's
to
time.
run with scissors.
Yeah. They have to be licensed to be able to be out there cutting hair.
All right.
I want people to have the best haircuts as possible.
Good. Glad we clarified that then.
We could do a cuts for kids by kids. It could be a big
Oh,
fundraising.
yeah, that would
we could
be
have
great.
kids cut their parents' hair and have people donate to make it happen.
Yes.
Because I would donate money to see my 11-year-old cut his hair.
Oh, absolutely. And there actually is a lot of organizations that will let
Yeah.
kids cut. I've always thought it would be cool for the guys during deer hunting season. You know how they grow the big beards? Have them come in, let the kids cut their beards, and raise money that way
it.
after deer season.
We're on to a
Yeah,
good idea
there's
and a new
tons
show.
of good
too.
ideas.
My word. Oh, do one on the show. Do it live on air.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll start
That'd be
growing
great.
a beard now for you.
You want Nikki cutting your face instead of your head?
Nowhere near my face with the scissors, please. Jenny, we're out of time. Thank you so much for being our
Thank
guest.
you for
Jenny
having
Totten
me.
with Free Cuts for Kids. Jessica Mason-Freilich, and I am Bill Freilich. We will see you next time right here on Common Royalty.